Hello and welcome to Gabor and Nurit's channel. This is our new channel, and this is the first time that we have a foursome. So here, my name is Nurit, and I'm here in Budapest, and beside me is Gabor Harsanyi, Master of Silence in Budapest. And with us are our lovely guests today, Susanne Marie and Pierre Richard. Susanne Marie is a spiritual mentor from California, is it? You're
Yes.
California. And Pierre Richard is a fabulous musician from Montreal, Quebec. And so this is quite a global event here. And some of you may have seen our recent videos with Susanne and, of course, with Pierre. Pierre has had many videos with Gabor, question and answer series. I'm still getting wonderful comments about those. And the last video that Susanne did with me and Gabor joined us a little bit later was about the feminine principle. And that actually was my inspiration for writing my new book. And it just came out today. What a coincidence.
Wow, looks great.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful. The feminine principle, yes.
the feminine principle, the key to awakening for men and women. And it was actually inspired by my last video with Susanne. Because we talked about the feminine principle, which is a topic that I've never talked about before. Yeah, I'll explain in the introduction how that evolved. So, and there are excerpts in the book by Susanne and by Gabor. So hopefully you'll enjoy those.
Wonderful book.
Yeah, thank you.
Really wonderful.
And another piece of very important information, Susanne and Pierre Richard are going to be here in Budapest in September, middle of September. And we're going to have a wonderful event, a weekend event, the weekend of September 15th and 16th. One of those days will be an all-day event. The details are still being ironed out. It's just been decided recently. And there's going to be lots more information coming on that on our website and on Susanne's website. So the websites are listed here for you. So stay tuned, and I hope you can come to experience that with us, because Susanne is a fantastic teacher, a spiritual mentor. And what I love about her most is her naturalness, her innocence, and the fact that nothing is ever excluded. What was it that you said? Everything is liberated. My favorite quote of Susanne. It's extremely compatible with Gabor's teachings. So together, I think it's going to be a blast. And apart from that, Budapest is the most beautiful city in the world, I'll have you know.
Looking forward. Wow.
We love
I can't wait to see you all and to share in this event with you all and whomever feels like coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So come from wherever you are to join us. And I have to just warn you, people who come here don't want to leave.
Okay.
So if you do leave, start saving for your next visit. Okay, I think that's a long enough introduction. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm just sitting here.
Sometimes I forget that he doesn't think very much.
Unless it's necessary.
Unless it's necessary. Deliberate thinking he does.
Beautiful.
So today we're going to have a wonderful chat among friends about various topics. And one area that we thought was very important to bring out, I think Pierre mentioned this earlier, and that's to talk a little bit about the pitfalls on the spiritual journey. Now, everybody talks about how great it is to be enlightened, and there's so many misconceptions about being enlightened or awakened. And very few talk about the hardships or the pitfalls or the misconceptions or the misguidedness that goes along the way.
The myths.
The myths, yeah. So we're going to start with that today to bust a few of those wide open, and we'll see what happens. So Pierre, take it away.
Well, I was thinking about this. When somebody, like myself, I haven't been, I haven't been on the spiritual path as long as you guys have. So when, you know, I look at satsangs, or I'm watching Buddha at the gas pump, you know, great interviews with great masters, and but you're seeing these teachers, you know, in satsangs, in retreats, etc. You're seeing them kind of at their best. They're in a transcendent state. They're really, you know, they're turning into the wisdom that they have. They're turning inward. They're really focused. It's really focused attention on what awakening is, on what spirituality is, and it's all very, very beautiful. But I had the sense, you know, I found out differently since then. I had the sense that these people were always like this. These teachers were always like this, in the sense that bliss was there 24/7. Bliss was there, wisdom was there 24/7. They were like almost perfect human beings, almost perfect. They didn't have any flaws in personality. And, you know, I'm giving you the overall kind of concept that I had about awakening. And even before I met Susanne about 1 year ago, even before that, I wasn't sure what she was like. I didn't know how she would be in a, you know, on a day-to-day, you know, day-to-day conversation, going out to eat. I thought everything was going to be sublime, and you know, like I said, just very.
This sounds boring.
Yeah, but another thing, one thing that Susanne and her teaching points out is, I thought if I would achieve awakening, or yes, experience awakening, then there would be a salvation. All my problems would be fixed. You know,
Bingo.
anything,
There you go.
exactly, bingo. And then have and contraction, and that you know, a spiritual teacher, a person or teacher could not experience, you know, short periods of contraction or just shutting down or whatever. So I had all these myths about, or these ideas, these concepts. Just again, it's nobody's fault. You know, you watch a satsang for 2 hours, and these people are doing, you know, these teachers are doing wonderful things, and you know, wonderful, and they're radiating. But then you go, you don't see them when they're, you know, in their car, in the traffic, and somebody cuts them off and they're getting, you know, whatever. You don't see them getting contracted and getting pissed off, let's say, you know, all these things, which are very natural human things. What I found is these things do exist. They just don't, all the contracted, let's say, contracted is not a good term for it maybe, but these reactions don't stay too long. You know, they don't weigh down on the consciousness of I'm talking about, let's say, Susanne. You know, I can't talk for everybody, but I imagine most, you know, most awakened teachers would be like that. So is that a good way to start? I think, you know.
Yeah.
So Gabor or Susanne, you want to?
Well, one of the things that I've shared with Pierre is that it can be very, what can help create separation is labeling.
Mm.
So I don't use the word contraction,
Right.
really, because, yeah, we have to use words, and we use, you know, language to try to explain things. But I think that words, they can create concepts, and then we believe that that is something that really exists, as if there is a contraction. And then suddenly we're in opposition to what we think we, you know, believe. You know, that there's the contraction and there's me. There's the contraction and there's you. And really what awakening, when it's really deeply embodied and when it really deeply goes throughout the whole system, is that there is an allowance and an opening to whatever is being experienced. And I don't experience myself going into contraction. I don't have that kind of label for myself. What happens for me is that I experience what I'm experiencing, sensations or whatever it is, and there is an automatic openness for that, an automatic inclusion for it. So there isn't a polarity that is built up in the system of, oh, that this is something that is unwelcome. This is something that's bad. You know what I mean? That as if there's a hierarchy of states of consciousness of what is more welcome than another. So that's how I live. That's how I live in my body and in my being. And so that's something that's still being, that it takes time to gain understanding in regards to ourselves. Because really what we're talking about is how we're meeting ourselves. And we can only imagine what we see in another based on what we have contained within ourselves.
Exactly, through our experience.
Yeah. And then with what you were speaking about in the very beginning about this seeing the modeling of spiritual teachers at their very most best behavior and modeling when they're teaching and maybe accessing more of a transcendent state of consciousness and so on. It's not giving example, and and it's hard to do anyway when you're doing that kind of teaching, but it's important to be able to bring it down into the human and really speak about how everything is included, and to not believe that irritation will never occur again, or that a moment of reaction couldn't occur again. But the difference is the way that one is being with it, the way that one is opening to it. If you know yourself as the whole, it doesn't create separation within you. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's right on.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, well, most of the same time I see a presentation, I find that there's a lot of wisdom that's being come forth, but it's that the wisdom usually does not include now let's eliminate this impression and let's get back to simplicity. I'm okay to explain something complex as long as I can laugh at it and collapse it. So if what would be nice if teachers who teach would teach the appropriate concept whichever day they want to go and collapse it, because if it's awakening is not something that we can reach by manipulating or changing personalities and behavior modification. It's not a motivated state where we go on in time to somewhere. It's actually collapse. It's rather than being motivated to move, I'm collapsing, let's say, into my body. I'm collapsing my words, my expressions into sound. Ooh, and I'm collapsing it into feeling. Oops. So then we realize that it's not at all the same. It's so far away from explanations and duality, this very simple feeling. Yet it is encouraged. The way I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like people are encouraged to look and search and look and search and do more and do more and do more. So the encouragement is towards the wrong vector, towards the wrong direction, because it's not in the future. It's in the now, and we can reach it by collapsing rather than reaching in the future. So of course everything is included. Whatever is happening in this moment, the planets are at a certain angle, and this moment my body is doing certain things. So I don't even know what's included, but whatever is there, it's included. If I have a pain, it's included. Of the availability of concepts. For example, if I walk into a bookstore, not too many people walk into bookstore now, but if I walked into a bookstore,
they shop online.
But they will for Nurit's new book.
Yeah.
where there is
it won't be in a bookstore, it'll be online.
and I see online shelves or whatever, there is the person sees, let's use the bookstore as an example, the person sees, I don't know, 2,000 books or something on two walls. And what's the assumption? The assumption is that I should know all of these or most of these before I can get to this desired place, right? And that's not true at all. Simplicity always wins over complexity, and it's time to make it very clear that it's not in some kind of an improvement which happens in time. It is truly here and now, which is indicated by our pivoting our attention towards the body. And so it makes it not in time, it's in an angle in comparison to this normal reality.
So regardless what's happening, it's here, you know, regardless of.
Yeah, the all-inclusiveness is a very wonderful way to say it. It's accompanying consciousness. It accompanies whatever is happening with me. So if this is what's happening with me, this accompanies it. So it's automatically everything is included.
Automatically. Yeah.
It's one way of expressing it, I guess.
Yeah, you're coming from a different angle.
Yeah.
At the same thing. Yeah. But you know, it's from the day we're born. I mean, when we arrive into this world, we don't exclude anything. Everything is a possibility, and everything is wonderful. Whether it's the keys that we find on the table that we shouldn't touch, or our bottle, or whatever it is. And right from the start, we're told not this, don't do this, don't do that. This is good, this is bad, this will make you sick, this will kill you. Put on a sweater, this cold is not good. Too hot is also not good. If you touch this, you'll burn yourself. It just never stops. And this is how we're programmed, you know. And then you come to a teacher who is awake and is all-inclusive. And you start wondering, like, wait a minute, my mind tells me that this is good and this is bad. What's happening here? It's a lot of, it's interesting. There's somebody else that I interviewed once, if you remember, Samarpan. He said he doesn't teach anything. He says, I just unteach everything that people have been learning, you know, including spiritual teachers, and especially spiritual teachers. You can't do this, you shouldn't do that. Exactly. Don't watch TV, don't have sex, don't eat meat. It just doesn't stop.
And all the modeling that the more realized you are, that all these things will naturally fall away, and you'll just be in bliss, and you won't be a sexual being, and you will be a vegetarian. And you won't sleep much. Need to. What else? Nothing will ever irritate you or bother you ever again.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
You won't have opinions. You won't have a single opinion.
I just am.
I'm just
How do you cross the street? I just am.
I just am, and nothing bothers me. There's no death,
I find it, I don't know what the word, reprehensible, that those misconceptions are not straightened out directly by a teacher, like as it's really important. Because I mean, I hate even discussing other teachers and stuff like that, and seem like I'm criticizing, right? But it became such a, the misconception became so powerful that it's got such a magnetic power, that such a simple, wonderful thing that's everybody's birthright keeps becoming hard. And so it's not supposed to be hard.
It becomes heavy.
It's not heavy.
Heavy with concepts, you know. That's the feeling that I get. It's so heavy with so many things piled on it, where really what we're talking about is silence. It's the nothingness of silence. It's nothing. It should be the lightest thing in the world.
And it's the everything of everything. Everything is that, and that should be so obvious as well. The problem with this, as you know, is that people leave themselves out of the equation. we have imagination about what spiritual realization is going to bring. It's going to make us feel 100% better. All our difficulties will fall away. It'll save us from our life as it is, our conditioning, our pain body, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's going to make us these pure beings that everyone will just take a look at and know that you're a special person. Very special.
Yeah, I'm special, and you know, I'm sure my skin color will change, and long hair and everything, because how can you be
very, very young.
how can you be awake with this kind of looks, you know?
Forever. Yeah, and the thing is that the sad thing, of course, is that we're leaving ourselves out of that equation, and so we can't. We're not given right off the bat, just like you said, Gabor, just good teachings right off the bat, where the falsity of what we are imagining is going to happen can fall away, and really reveal that just as we are, we can realize this. Yeah. Just as we are that. And,
yeah.
The simplicity of that message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing that I absolutely love about Gabor since I've been with him is because I too, like you, Pierre, I had teachers that sat on pedestals, and you know, they don't fart, they don't burp, they're as pure as can be. They're just so out there, you know. You know, dressed in silk robes, or the other one was full of jewelry and whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm with Gabor, and he's so ordinary.
Exactly. Yeah.
So ordinary. There's nothing, you know, except maybe when he wakes up, his hair stands up a bit.
Oh, that's just too.
That's pretty ordinary.
Yeah, turn on my spirituality every morning. I
agree. You're so ordinary, and Susanne too. It's easy to miss the depth. You know, that's one thing I sometimes I talk about to my friends, like you know, that don't know anything much about spirituality, and I try to say a bit about what Susanne does, or you know, what's a spiritual teacher they look like. You know, they don't know what it is. Anyway, so I try to talk about a certain depth that she has that I don't, you know, most people that don't find it most people, and they just don't, you know, they don't get it.
No,
because they're not they're not really listening or looking at the depth. They're not quieting down enough. The mind and the whole consciousness doesn't quiet down enough just to feel it, to feel the depth.
Well,
the mind is too busy. You're going to miss it. You're going to miss it.
Well, the mind is busy with expectation. They have an expectation of what a teacher should be like.
Right.
You know, so when the mind is that busy, they can't see what's in front of them. You know, and
like Buddha, if Buddha was here today, we met Buddha, what would he look like? Maybe we'd pass him in the street. We would have no idea it was, you know, Buddha or Christ or whoever.
We would imagine what he would look like. And because of our imagination and expectation, we wouldn't recognize it.
We'd miss it.
Yeah, we would probably give him a gift certificate to next gym for weight loss.
Yeah, right.
The thing is that if we're missing depth in one another, the obvious conclusion is that we're missing the depth in ourselves.
Yes.
So you know, to place depth, how it's supposed to look, and the image of it is just another veil of feeling our own intrinsic naturalness. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a friend way back when I was in India. I had a friend that went to see Nisargadatta. Nisargadatta was still alive then, and in the 80s, I think, or late 70s. And he was so excited. He was already with Muktananda, so he in his opinion, you know, in his experience, a teacher sits on a throne, and people wave to him or bow to him and all of that. So he goes to Nisargadatta's house, and it's a little hut, and people are sitting around on the floor in this living room. Chickens are going in and out.
There's probably flies everywhere.
Somebody's chewing tobacco, somebody else is rolling cigarettes, and and stuff like that. And he's sitting and he's sitting and he's sitting, and I wonder when the master is going to show up. It's like, this is like I thought satsang, this darshan or satsang, whatever they called it there, I thought meeting the teacher would be at 3 o'clock, and it's like almost 4 o'clock. Where is he? I guess that he's out of time. But so finally he was getting restless, so he turns to somebody on his left and says, do you have any idea when the master's coming out? And he's right over there.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
He was just sitting there rolling they call it bidis, these Indian cigarettes.
Yeah.
That's what he did for a living. Imagine that.
Wow.
And he probably had sex with his wife.
Really?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope so for both of them. That was my first experience with a spiritual teacher. Also, that was my first experience too. I didn't recognize her. She was there, but I didn't recognize her. It was too ordinary.
Yeah.
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 She was too ordinary.
Yeah.
And if somebody isn't, like you really like to be, somebody likes to be on a pedestal and likes to be different and kind of implies awakening on the end. They never actually promise, but they imply. It's taken into consideration how the world is, and I'm all inclusive of everybody, but it's like a crime. It's to take somebody's attention away for 20 years and not say, hey, I'm on a pedestal, but it's simple. It's like not emphasizing the simplicity and as to how simple that is, and letting that gap be there between the teacher and student.
Mm-hmm.
If that gap is there, it's automatically guarantees that the student will never get to awakening.
Yeah.
Because awakening is fine for you because you look so different, you're on a pedestal, and I'm just going to keep on coming to satsangs.
Right.
So that gap, that initial gap that is there, if you're sitting on a pedestal, is like
That's a great
you
point.
can't bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Very, very good point.
That's what I like about Susanne's teachings. There's no gap between her and the students. And I don't know if you, Gabor, you're the same. There's no gap between you.
Absolutely not. I mean, we're teaching unifying. We're not teaching, something else, division. So if I'm teaching unifying or unification, whatever word we use, it's all inaccurate anyway. Why would I make such a distinction about myself?
Yeah. And
I'm just like you, rather than I'm not just like you.
Yeah, you learn from your students sometimes more than they learn from you.
Always.
He finishes a session online and he says, boy, I learned so much today.
It's just painful to live in any other way. If the gap is really closed inside of oneself, where we're not seeing certain things as welcome and certain things as unwelcome, that's how one views the world as well. And that when I see somebody, I don't see them as awake or not awake. I don't. I see sometimes what I can see maybe is confusion versus not confused, but I see it all as innocent.
I didn't think it was possible for somebody, awakened person, to be in a relationship with a non-awakened, someone who hasn't gone through awakening. And I couldn't see how it was possible. And I know you went through it with Gabor, and I went through it with Susanne. So it is possible. It's just again, so many concepts that I had. It puts a veil on my personal seeing of what awakening is. So again, I think I'm learning more and more what awakening is not.
Yeah.
Which I know. Very useful, very extremely useful, and in my evolution.
The way that I often see it is when I said earlier, another way of saying how I can see and feel people is where they're open and where they're not open.
Right.
In terms of where they're open, And it's like, it's a very body thing too. It's like, you know, where's the energy flowing and unobstructed, and where is there you know, a place where it is more dense and more in belief of something, around something. And so I think that, so even with people who so-called have had awakenings, you know, even teachers, some teachers I've met, it's very obvious to me where there's not, where there's, the opening is not, where there's still something that's being worked out.
Yeah.
And so it does, so being awake or not, that doesn't make you more prone to being open or not. It's just, it's another aspect of self that occurs, that is seen. Yeah, it does support.
That's a good point,
when it's
yeah.
taken to its conclusion, it does support a lot of emptying out, a lot of openness. But, you know, by itself, that's not how I see people. Awake, not awake. I see them more like, where are they open? Where are they on board?
That's a very good point.
Psychologically on
Yeah.
boally, emotionally on board, you know,
exactly.
which you have a lot. So
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And when someone wants to learn, there's a qualifying exercise, you know, very simply just, are you able to just look at me and feel your hand? And if you think it's too boring, then maybe I shouldn't be your teacher, you know.
Right. It's too
I'm
simple.
not for you.
the simplicity, yeah.
Yeah. Too simple. It's so, Gabor, I keep on saying it, it's so easy to miss the simplicity. It's so easy to overlook it. I know you've said that often to me in our discussions. You know, the mind thinks it's too easy, wants something more complicated, wants something more entertaining, and
wants proof of what it's going to look like.
Proof, yes. Yeah. Rather than just think and feel the simplicity, feel, you know, the essence. You know, and it's as easy and as difficult as that.
Gabor has many of his students, and myself included, fall into this trap of trying too hard to be simple. You know, I got to do that. Didn't do this enough. I forgot today to practice, or I didn't feel present enough when this happened. I didn't, you know, I wasn't conscious enough when that happened. And I hear him oftentimes saying to myself and to others, you know, you don't have to be present. You don't have to go into you don't have to do anything. You just turn your attention this way. Inside. I can't show it because I'm lower. That's all you have to do. You have to redirect your attention. That's all.
Yeah.
And you say it better because you
I
say
do?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
But the way you say it, all of a sudden it takes all the pressure off.
Yeah.
And this the realizations aren't now I'm in a higher state of consciousness. The realizations are, oh, it's that simple. Oh, so how did I miss the simplicity? Oh, so I've been complicating it. It's really so simple. And that's the constant realization, is how simple it is and how often we complicate it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And a lot of the pitfalls obviously come from complicating it.
Yeah, and I even when you know, as you know, I give homework for my students, whoever want to work with me, because I don't really even want to work with them unless they want to do the homework. But if I say to somebody, okay, you need to feel your hand. Okay. Oh, am I feeling my hand? I'm feeling my hand. I'm not feeling my hand. Or I can say, okay, be in your body. Oh, am I in my body now? Yeah, I'm in my. Yesterday I was in my body. I try to get an exercise or an expression that almost like have no opposite. Like you don't have, the only thing you have to do is take your attention and point it towards the body. That's it. That's your job. The rest is God's job. So that's as simple as I can make it, so that the consequences of, oh my God, I got to be present and feel guilty about it doesn't show up. I'm doing my job. And at this moment, the universe opened the door an inch. Okay. That's God's job. And now a kilometer. Okay. And the next moment brings another moment. So it's time to emphasize that simplicity, what we talk about, and even and demonstrate it.
Yeah.
And definitely demonstrate it in life.
Part of the demonstration for me is the ordinariness of you and of someone like Susanne. There's no fuss, there's no airs about it, there's no look at me, I'm special, there's no personal power being exuded, it's just that simplicity.
Yeah, and even as I say again, I don't want to, this is not meant to be a critical part for other teachers or anything like that, but the misinformation is so strong that for something as simple as that, for something as important as this, there's so much misinformation that I sometimes I feel bad talking about it, but I must talk about it. It's like when the enemy of the simple exercise is misinformation, and I got to point it out.
Yes, I understand. I think that's being kind. It's being kind to the whole, because we are the whole. And why would we want to, if we can, why would we want to support through our silence something that could actually help someone be liberated, is to point out that if it's complicated, that's not it.
Yeah, exactly. The price is too high, but what I mean is that the price of not doing awakening is so high now that it's absolutely essential to point out this kind of simplicity, or because I see it every day. People are either able to actually focus their attention in this way, or the stress is just becoming higher and higher and higher for them, and the mind is becoming faster and faster, and they're searching for spiritual solutions faster and faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking about it a lot because it's important and it's a problem.
It is. It is. I think that it's a very fortunate thing to come across a teacher that really is about simplicity and can lead you back to yourself. Just like turn, like you said, Nurit, like turn back here, that you're pointing out what Gabor says. Turn back here. Don't look outside. No, keep turning. Turn back in. And that pointing before it gets turns into a circuitous route of, as you know, Nurit, and as many of us know, and who have possibly gone on a route that could have been so much shorter. And like nothing, of course, is really a mistake, but who wants to waste their time? And who has the time anymore now? And does the planet have the time? And
that's what we're talking about, really. It's not like we can screw around so much and now.
We don't have, lifetimes of going, oh, maybe if I stand this way, it's going to happen. Or maybe if I eat that, it'll happen. Or I stay away from sex for a lifetime, it's going to happen.
That's important, yeah.
Good luck.
In the next lifetime, you'll be like, pretending, you'll be some guru pretending that you don't have sex, and you'll be like going crazy. If you deny it, denial is not the path.
Exactly. And I think one very important point that is so misunderstood, that people think that, apart from the fact that it's a waste of time, there's another thing about it, and that is that people think that by doing all these other things, they're preparing for this. They're preparing for awakening. And it's the biggest, pardon my French, it's the biggest piece of shit I've ever heard. Very short.
That was very tame, Nurit.
The F-bomb was about to come out, but I didn't decide it. Because it's not a preparation. Nothing is a preparation. Preparing for what? Preparing for what you already are? That's bullshit. And in fact, it's not only is it not a preparation, it creates a huge block. And I people don't believe me so many times when I say this. They still have this and I know where they're coming from because I used to be there. They're coming from a place of, I don't want to admit that the last 20 years of my life, try 40, were a mistake or a waste of time. It may not have been a mistake, but or a waste of time. What it has been is a built up of obstacles. And I can say this from my own experience because being with Gabor, and I'm sure you experience it too, Pierre.
Yeah.
There are so many spiritual concepts that I've had to go through, to look at, and every now and then I realize, oh, I'm so used to intellectualizing everything, I'm substituting the experience that for the actual experience. I think that just because I understood a concept, I actually experience it, and it's not so. Yeah. But in spirituality, in so many of these teachings, you never really have an experience except for seeing lights or visions, which are useless. It's on a psychic level. But you don't really go into the depth of your real original being. You're dependent on another teacher's experience instead of your own. And as long as you have that and you get used to that, then you continue to do it even when you find awakening.
Yeah.
And so you have not been prepared. You have been butchered. I get really hot about this because
good points.
Yeah. I've had the like you, Nurit, I've had the great fortune of having someone like Susanne, just like all my concepts, just no, that one, you know, she's like a, you know, just with like a really sharp sword, very quickly, forget about it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I know. I get that all the time.
Crash course.
But it's not like I'm doing that on purpose.
No.
It's more.
It's done with love, but it's just it's very direct path. And I love that. I'm so attracted to the direct path because anything's, you know, thinking some of the old, you know, sometimes you think about the old Hindu texts, which are beautiful and poetic, but I don't understand them. You know, it's just I don't get it. It's like, my God, you know, it's like beautiful, but you know, all these gods and goddesses, it's just way too much. It's too flat.
Plus, it's a different culture.
Yeah, sure. A different time, different culture, but I was never really attracted to that. And, you know, well, that for me is the longer path, and
yeah.
True. Yeah. Also my experience that the longer path doesn't work. The longer path does not work.
Yeah.
Long, safe, with all the constraints of society, and make sure we fit in.
Yeah, exactly.
And it will take a long time because I'm using a safety net kind of thing, and I'm doing all the good things, behavior modifications, meditate more, chant more, etc.
Yeah.
And
read the scriptures.
Yeah, and read the scriptures. It's just not there. It's looking in the wrong street. Yeah. It's like if I had a street where I could go with my eyes, my ears, touching, and I can navigate my life in the street. That's okay. But awakening is not in the street. It's in the other one, which is of course all encompassing all the other streets. But looking in the right area is essential.
The starting point is essential.
It's a path of control that you're speaking. People want to control with the safety net.
Yeah. So that long path, even though people have been at it for a long time, they even move away to monasteries and things like that. And it's very popular in some circles. It's just it does not work. I talk to many of those people, and it's almost like the harshness and the sharpness of the occasional happening in life is necessary to deal with it in this moment, to to open some kind of a mini door that will not open if I'm saving myself from any kind of trouble and sitting on a mountaintop and meditating. So in essence, we need the trouble. We need the stir up. We need the happening.
We need life.
Yeah, if it's not happening, there's no awakening. Without the lives happening.
Yeah, without opening to life as it is rather than wanting to control it. Which includes our emotional states. It includes everything that's arising here, to not like divide ourselves up and make all these boxes, you know, that this is welcome, this is unwelcomed aspect of myself, you know.
Yeah.
And divide ourselves up and say, okay, this isn't welcome, this isn't an aspect of awakening. I don't see it being modeled in these teachers, so it can't be part of it. And so then we create more division versus an inclusion, like a welcoming, a place of welcoming, where our own bodies and psyches and are there's an openness to things being as they are. That's the first way things even begin to change, is when things are really allowed to be as they are, right? So then we're not controlling our inner state either, which is huge. Most of the people I work with, honestly, on some level, are working through the pitfalls, the ideas of what awakening is, and leaving themselves out of the equation, and then just finally learning how to open to including themselves or being with themselves in a natural way, letting it be. If there's sadness, let it be. You know, how tragic that we've learned how sadness and sorrow and grief is not welcome. How tragic that we have left all these parts of ourselves out and divided ourselves. You know, it creates so much misery, inner misery, and shame. Yeah.
Shame.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when the contrast mind forms any kind of opinion about this, we can be assured that we can just laugh it out.
Laugh and cry it out. Like yesterday, I had a session with someone who just cried the whole time, and other times I've been with people who didn't, just like finally just relax, and so much they laugh. So both, anything that needs to happen to just have this energy shake down and release, let go.
It's like an earthquake. It's and I found crying to be the best, but I'm not encouraging people laughing. So I can say.
Well, I would say, Gabor, I was just thinking that for us guys, I don't know about you, but laughing is easier than crying, because in society we've been conditioned not to cry. I know.
Absolutely.
About your history or about your upbringing, but you know, guys in general don't cry. And I still have a problem with that. Just releasing the tears, letting myself feel this. I can laugh much easier than that.
Yeah.
Like, wow, so many years of conditioning, you know.
Yeah, it's actually nice to cry sometimes, you know. It
is.
It's a different kind of release or high even.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like a rain shower. We need all the weather, and the earth needs the rain, and the clouds, they built up, and they get that kind of dynamic tension, and it releases, and this rain comes. That's how I see tears, and it's in the body. They've proven it's healing.
That's right. Yeah, we don't want to remove ourselves from anything in life. We want to get into it. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
There are all the elements.
Into it. Interlace it.
Yeah, you have a really good analogy in your book, Functional Silence. Gabor talks about firemen. They don't run away from it. They go into the fire to put it out. They don't run away from it.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's true.
Unless you're very analytical and you can stop in front of the house and say, hey dude, is this really,
Is this for real?
is this for real? Is my shift over? Maybe I should just go home, or let's go inside and analyze how the fire started. Oh, okay, let's pour oil over it. So it's you go against the fire and do what we need to do, rather than spending a lot of time analyzing where the fire came from. I mean, that might be important, but at this moment we go right to the fire. Whatever is happening is now in this fire, and I'm being with it now.
Good.
Before I might have thought that I need to know where this pain or sensation came from before I can be with it. And what we're saying is, when it's just be with it now, right to the fire.
That's it.
And yeah, and that's it. And if you need to know later on, it might come up, it might not, but it's not that important, is it?
That's the inner training that when you brought up earlier, Pierre, about how language can create, we brought up language of contraction or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And the inner training of going within to meet whatever is arising, it goes deeper than the explanation of so-called what this is, which just takes one out of the experience.
Right.
It helps one go deeper through that gate of words and concepts into true experiencing, direct experiencing. And there is no, this is permitted, this is not permitted, this is allowable, this is welcome, this is, okay. None of that is there when we're just resting with experience. It's just pure experience.
Pure sensation experience.
Yeah, and then whatever it has to say, vibrationally, it shares that. And there's a reason it's there, how I see it. And then it has a chance to share vibrationally its signature of whatever it's saying beyond language, deeper than language.
That's right.
And then something else will arise. That's what the nature of things anyway. Things move on. And then, so that's why I like to go directly to experience and point people directly to experience.
Mm-hmm.
Direct, like it's like bang, like this. That's the easiest is the absolute directness.
Yeah. And I love that. We were talking about this last night, and I still have problems with that. The concepts are there. We were talking about contraction, and Susanne says, "I don't feel contraction. I feel energy, and I experience it. I don't go into the mind to do that." So she bypasses the mind, and that when she mentioned that, it's like, wow, it seems so liberating. So simple, yet so liberating. Just bypass the mind and experience. Go to pure experience. And what you were talking about the fire before, those firemen, when they go into the fire, they're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to go do this. They just go pure experience, bang, And any emergency situation, people will do amazing things, and they say, "How did I do that?" They didn't think of it. They just do. They be. So when we were talking about that last night, especially, because I talk about contraction a lot, because I feel contraction, or I feel this energy a lot. And Susanne just pointed out, well, just go into the experience, the feeling, rather than label it, and it may that whole thing may shift after a while, So I find that very liberating. So I'm going to work with that.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
I have to sit with it, and of course, there's a lot of conditioning there that has to be, undone. But it's wow.
It's such a movement of love.
Yeah.
It's a movement of love, actually. Because we're conditioned to first of all move away from what's uncomfortable, and we're conditioned to say some things are welcomed and other things aren't, and we're also conditioned that there are some things are good and some things are bad. That means that some things about we're bad when we feel this way, we're good when we feel this way. So when we go deeper into pure experiencing, we're accessing our original nature prior to taught about what's welcome and not welcome, what's allowed and not allowed.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can go to our nature now. We don't have to get through all the
all the story about it, or the words about it, working it out.
It's
Yeah.
it's a weird. It's like the traditional thing is that you meet a beautiful woman and you court her in time, and then in time you get to know her, and then you have sex or whatever the deal is. But first you get to know her and be a friend and all these things, and then this unification happens, right? And what I wanted to say is, with respect to awakening, is first you unify. First we unify, and then there might be a
Courting.
a courting, or it might be an understanding or something like that. So it's really weird how we can unify now, and I don't need to get to know you that much.
I think you're talking about a one-night stand.
Yeah, like, look.
A one-night stand with yourself.
First we unify, and tomorrow we talk about.
First you have a one-night stand, then you decide if you want to continue.
Okay, so in case the audience is left a little baffled, what I hear you saying is that go directly to experience, like something's coming up, go directly to feeling it, just be with it.
Right.
And later, if it needs to, you can come up with an understanding. What is going on? What was that? What was this misunderstanding or whatever?
Exactly.
Yeah. Otherwise you just go to your default, which is trying to analyze and fix with the mind, and that never works, because that's where the problem started in the first place.
Yeah.
Good point. I love this.
That's a very good point, and one, like I said, one I'm still struggling with, one I still have to constantly remind myself.
And it's like I might be aware that there's a lot of things that potentially need to be cleaned out, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what my mind, that's what my contrast mind is saying. It may or may not be true, because at this moment, if I can get to the fire now, I can bypass all this, and the mind slows down and stops. Bingo, I'm awakened.
Yeah.
And the previous thought of, oh my God, it will take me a while to clean up all these things, is not very helpful, because although that might be true, but if we go still directly to the fire, and stuff will come up on its own when it's appropriate, and it'll happen much faster, in my experience, right? The stuff comes up, doing this, the so-called cleanup happens much faster, and the pain that we experience occasionally gives us the wisdom from the pain. So it's sort of, the whole thing is kind of twisted around.
That's beautiful. What I'd like to just point out, what you said, is that when we go in and unify, when we go in and directly experience, we're in the awakened state, because we're not in division. We're one with what we're experiencing. And when we're one with what we're experiencing, we're not two.
Exactly.
We're in pure experiencing, to go directly to experiencing. That is the awakened state.
That's it.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and my third eye will not pop out of my head.
Yeah, speaking of third eye.
If it comes to our weekend, it will.
That's a promise.
Well, we'll open your third eye, and we'll even open an 11th toe for you.
We have special Shaktipat.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what you wanted to talk about? Addiction to spiritual, so-called spiritual experiences.
Yeah, we're talking about it. Yeah, it's part of. It feels like it's being interwoven into our conversation.
Yeah.
Right. That we think it's going to be one big high, one big, transcendent bliss state.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really high, what really makes one feel high, actually, is opening to what is.
Yeah.
It is. It's fabulous to feel, to let everything be as it is and experience it. and
That's
not
right.
say some things are welcome and some things aren't. That to me is the ultimate bliss state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the weird stuff, of course, is that, I'm taking my attention in, and the more nothing I do, the better it gets. I do nothing. And in this moment, it's different. I do nothing. And then nothing. And all of a sudden, it does get so deep that you could almost say this is a blissful state. I mean, the mind is judging. The mind would even judge it. Oh my God, that's a blissful state.
Yeah.
And the mind can see into this.
I think the mind invented the word bliss.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
It feels like, it's at peace with,
Concept,
like
yeah.
whatever is allowed to be, one is at peace with on some level.
Yeah.
So that feels nice to the system. The system's not at war. The body's not at war within itself.
That's right.
Very peaceful thing.
Yeah. It's like an inner okayness.
Yeah.
What's that?
Inner okayness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Total inner okayness.
It's just okay. Everything is hunky-dory. It's okay. The good, bad, and the ugly. It's all okay.
Yeah, I mean, normally us as people, we fight, we look for our identity as in the opposites. I'm searching for my identity, but knowing this unification, this all-inclusiveness, there's no need for a conceptual identity that we always search for. Because, who am I if I'm not taller or higher or faster or richer or what have you? So it's not knowing who we are is a huge, is part of the problem. And of course, that's also just an expression. So.
I like that inner okayness and being
absolutely.
okay with not being okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, being okay.
I have a pain and I'm pointing my attention and there it is. And there's pain.
This is the thing that's really hard to explain to someone who doesn't yet know that. It's like, to explain that there's something that's so open to including everything. So okay, there's an okayness that's vast as vast as you can imagine, and within that, all is arising.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's an experience that I talk about in my book. I don't want to give the whole book away, but this one kind of fits into our conversation, and that is when we had the fire. Some of you may not know, a few months ago we had a fire and a whole apartment burned down. And okay, just a regular Thursday. And then we found a new place very quickly and we had to move. And when everything burns, it's very hard to make a shopping list because how do you put everything on a shopping list?
Yeah.
You don't know what you have and what you don't have. And we finally moved, and it was a most exhausting day. It was just like at the end of my rope. It was so exhausting. For days we've been moving things around, cleaning black tar and from everything, black soot, and all of a sudden, I think it was like 8 o'clock at night or something, and we realized that we didn't have a mattress.
Yeah, right.
And so we had to go to the store and get a mattress. And we go to the store where we thought it was going to be at. There was several stops in a subway and all that. We get there, huge mall. We walk and walk and walk. Finally, we find the place, and I'm dragging my feet. I'm like, I can barely scrape my feet off the ground to get there. And they say, oh no, we don't have it here. You have to go to our sister company, another branch. And then so you have to take 2 buses, 3 trains, and then a taxi, and then walk another. That was so far. And I said to Gabor, I can't do this. I just can't. I said, I'm dying. I'm blacking out. I don't know what to do. And not once has he scolded me for feeling the way I am. He never said, "Oh, you shouldn't feel like this."
What kind of a spiritual
what
person?
kind of what kind of awakened being are you? You should transcend all. He was totally with me, and it's okay. We can go home, and we can even take a cab if you want. So we're walking towards the cab, and I'm kind of leaning on him, like barely able to get a breath through it. And it was and then he still doesn't say nothing is wrong. The whole situation is totally acceptable. It's totally okay, even though I wasn't okay with it. He was totally okay with it. And then he just kind of says gently to me, see if you can feel your breath, or see if you can feel your body, if you can, like just so ever so gently and subtly.
Great.
So I started doing that, and I kid you not,
Bingo.
instantly, I was just like, oh, and like I tuned in so fast just by the gentle reminder. It wasn't like, you're not supposed to be like this, you're supposed to be like that, and where's your bliss under the carpet, and and we went and got the mattress as if nothing happened, as if it was, it is amazing.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful teaching.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, it's the mattress shopping experience
Beautiful, beautiful.
in a shopping center. It didn't happen in Tibet.
In the power of allowance, and what the power of allowance and the power of going in. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it's very humble. It's very simple. It's allowance. It's the simplicity always wins against the complexity. It's almost like it's the teachings of simplicities. At what sort of a degree of simplicity can I apply now? Is much more so than how much more explanation can I have. So, that's a good expression, applying simplicities.
Yeah. Well, I think we pretty much covered today's conversation, and
That's good. Yeah.
I think we'll have many more of these, and we'll perhaps make a few of these when you come
That would be fun.
to the fest. And to the audience that's watching, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found meaning in this. And you're all welcome to come to Budapest. It's a beautiful place.
Fun.
The food is great. It's a live city. It's a city with soul. Every hour of the day and night, there's people outside drinking hot wine and dancing or playing music or skateboarding, or it's a happening place. And September, the weather is the best.
Oh, right. It'll be at the beautiful time of year, you said.
Yeah, a beautiful time of the year. Plus, Susanne and Pierre will be here. Come on.
We're so looking forward. Wow. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much
you guys.
for
really beautiful.
connecting in this way.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
We look forward to more, and congratulations again on your book.
Oh, thank you.
I can't wait to get a copy.
So anxious to check it out. Yeah. Wow.
And see it in the flesh. And I recommend it to everyone who's watching.
Yeah. Maybe you want to show it. Maybe you want to show it again.
Oh, sure.
And you can get it on where?
Amazon.
Feminine Principle. Nurit, Oren. Yeah.
The Feminine Principle, the key to awakening for men and women. So it's also for men.
Yeah, amazing. Well,
yeah, you don't leave anyone.
It's for everybody. It's for everybody.
It's all inclusive.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.